Today we are going to be walking you through my personal deck build for a Frognarch Vanity deck in the hat format of Yu-Gi-Oh! Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. If you are new here, my name is Kyle. I am your guy with too many YouTube channels. So this deck obviously it focuses mostly by using the frog mechanic. I am a guy who has mained Frognarchs my entire life, but I've dabbled in with this deck as well, and it is a very strong deck. The primary monsters you want to get out is Majesty's Fiend and Vanity's Fiend to completely lock your opponent down. I'm going to walk you through all of the cards in the build. Let's get into it. The first card being Slifer, the Sky Dragon. The reason I wanted to include Slifer is because with a Frognarch deck, it is not uncommon for you to be able to get 3 monsters and a 3 tribute. And if you happen to get a Majesty's Fiend or Vanity's Fiend on the field, there are a lot of times where you just keep drawing cards because it's all you need is your Fiend monster and your opponent's not really doing anything. So Slifer itself, it is a very powerful card, and I found this particularly helpful in this deck. It's shockingly more helpful than you would think it was. Obviously, with a Frognarch deck, we got to have 1 copy of Gorz, the Emissary of Darkness. You don't run traps in this deck. If you find yourself running out of monsters, this thing can be a big game saver. Continuing on, one of the main cards in the deck, Vanity's Fiend. Cannot be special summoned. Neither player can special summon monsters. Especially in a format like the hat format, everybody likes to special summon. If you can get this card out, then it really does stop your opponent, especially if you have a little bit of protection with it, and especially if you can get this thing going very early on the game. If you're able to get it first turn with something like a Swap Frog, man, this is off to a great start. Let's continue on. We do have 1 Monarch in the deck. A little bit situational. You can always use a Caius the Shadow Monarch. You always can. You're always going to have your Treebone Frogs in the graveyard, and this thing, sometimes you just need to banish a monster, and Caius does the job itself. It is probably the best Monarch. Continuing on, 3 copies of Majesty's Fiend. I personally find this to be a better card than Vanity's Fiend. Cannot be special summoned. Neither player can activate monster effects. It is shocking to me, or I don't know if this really would be shocking to you, how much this actually does lock your opponents down. It is a phenomenal card. It really stops the game, and you can just attack with this thing over and over and over again. And your opponent's essentially just forced to take that out before they do anything else, but they can't use any monsters to do so. Continuing on, staple of the deck, 3 copies, Swap Frog. Phenomenal effect. Get a frog to the graveyard, bounce it back, special summon. You can get a tribute. This card is a must-have in a frog deck. Continuing on, and I don't know how many people would agree with this, guys. Flip-Flop Frog, 2 copies of it. You'd be surprised at how often you're able to bounce more than 1 monster back to the hand with this card. Regardless, you said it. First of all, Ronin Tonin fodder, excuse me. It's always very good to have, but to actually just have that effect where it's like you bounce a monster back to the hand, it's like Penguin Soldier, where it's like sneakily very good. Sometimes you just need to bounce a card back because it does offer some self-protection, and Flip-Flop Frog is a very underrated card. Another staple of the deck, Ronin Tonin, 2 copies. Typically in a Frognarch deck, I would have 3 copies, but for this particular Majesty's Fiend and Vanity's Fiend build, you could run 1 copy, but just in case it ends up getting banished, I do like having the 2 copies of Ronin Tonin. Always there, always able to summon back to the field, always to have tribute fodder over there, and even if you want to get into the XYZ monsters as well. Dupe Frog, offer up some protection, fodder for Swap Frog, having a frog in the graveyard for Ronin. Did I just mention Ronin Tonin? But you can also have, like, its effect can be used in multiple ways, and if you happen to set this thing on first turn, depending on what your opponent opens up with, to have a 2,000 defense monster isn't bad as well. Staple of the deck, 3 copies, Treeborn Frog. Must have. I will never understand why anybody runs less than 3 Treeborn Frogs. It's the best frog card in the deck. Get this thing in the graveyard as soon as possible. You can get a free monster every single turn, and you can activate all your spell cards. 1 copy, Battle Fader, offer up some protection. I found 1 copy sufficient for this type of build, but I would not be upset if you wanted to add a couple more copies of Battle Fader. Continuing on, Creature Swap, 2 copies of them. With this too, with the Vanity's Fiend and Majesty's Fiend, you make your opponent play a little bit slower, and there are a lot of times where they do have 1 monster in the field. Normal summon Treeborn Frog in attack mode if you happen to have 1 in your hand, or just when you don't have a Majesty's Fiend or Vanity Fiends out, your opponent has a good monster. Creature Swap it, take it, you get your own free beast stick, and then attack a monster with 100 attack. I'm a big fan of Creature Swap. Continuing on, 2 copies of Soul Charge. Sometimes you need those monsters back from the grave, and Soul Charge can be pretty helpful, especially in a deck where we don't pay a lot of life points over here. So I like the 2 copies of Soul Charge to bring things back. 3 copies of Soul Exchange. Again, a little bit slowing the pace down with this deck. I love the fact that I can always tribute one of my opponent's monsters. There are very few things that, could get around this. They would have to like be on the ball negating this type of thing. I love attributing my opponent's monsters to bring out something like Majesty's Fiend, to bring out something like Caius. I don't care that I have to skip my battle phase. It's a slower paced deck anyways. I'm just looking to get my monsters out, and the fact that I can use my opponent's monster is great. I know the Monarch Stormforth would be ideal, but unfortunately, we can't use that card, okay? Finally, 2 copies of Upstart Goblin. This is a 40-card deck, and the 2 Upstart Goblins will get you to your frogs quicker to get you to everything that you need. Foolish Burial, get that Treeborn Frog in the graveyard. Very self-explanatory. Get that Ronin Tonin. And I'd love to know what you guys think about this card, okay? 1 copy of Magical Mallet. I have always used this card in my frog decks whenever there's like a deck, or a pretty well Monarch deck, Frog Monarchs, where you can have a hand with Monarchs, level 6s, a Slifer the Sky Dragon. It can get cluttered and you can have bad hands, and this has saved the day on multiple occasions. So I actually do like Magical Mallet in the deck, and I know it is a -1, but sometimes you just have those hands with these types of decks. 2 copies of Pot of Duality. I know it's a little bit weird with a frog deck with Treeborn Frog, Ronin Tonin, but you're going to have Majesty's Fiend, you're going to have Vanity's Fiend on the field. You're not going to be able to special summon anyways. You're not going to be able to activate your Treeborn Frog's effect. Pot of Duality is perfectly acceptable to use, and you can only just strengthen your hand throughout using these cards. 1 copy Forbidden Lance. If your opponent happens to get a monster out that's a little bit better than your Fiend, you get them under 2400 attack. Additionally, it does offer protection. I've played around with actually having 3 Forbidden Lances in the deck. At this moment, I'm running 1, but I've teetered with 2 Forbidden Lances. Just take out the Upstart Goblins. I do not mind having 3 Forbidden Lances at all in this deck, okay? 3 copies, Enemy Controller, a must-have in the deck, a staple. It's a free tribute if you have Treeborn Frog in the graveyard. Additionally, if you do need to get around the monster, you can just switch it to defense position. You can negate an attack with it if you feel like setting it. This card is a must-have in any sort of Frog Monarch deck, and even though it's a Frog Vanity deck, you absolutely 100% need this. Now, let's continue on over to the extra deck, and this deck, I rarely go to the extra deck. Every once in a while, you'll get like a Herald of Pure Light, a Gotchi, but there's just options over here, and you can see that it's like, I have 3 copies of the Constellar Monster, Herald of Pure Light, like, there weren't even enough cards here that made me go, okay, like, there's only so many 1-stars that I could use. I rarely, if ever, XYZ summon in this deck, especially because my goal is to get out those Vanity cards. I'm not going to XYZ summon with any of those either. Like, you have to have an extra deck, don't get me wrong, and I don't mind the idea of adding like a Deep Sea Diva to the deck either if you want to have that synchro option there. I've also played with that, but again, the goal is just to get the Fiends out. And I don't want to start, I found it better without personally, but if you want to add that, I don't mind that. The only thing that I do like is playing around with the copies of Forbidden Lands. But guys, with that, that is the deck profile that we have for the hat format Frognarch Vanity deck type, and I would love to know what you guys think about this down below. I also made a deck type video on a Convulsion of Nature deck, and you can check it out right here, also in the hat format. I would love to have you guys over there. Thank you very much for watching the video. Take care, guys.